Hi, everybody. Um, Thank you so much for attending. I'm hoping everybody can hear me. You never know when you're in the digital space here. So we just want to thank you so much for listening in. This is going to be session 2 here, and our goal is just to be there for all local small businesses in any way that we can. Please feel free to type in any questions into the Q&A as we go here, and then Renee will address those as we get closer to the end. There is a little bit of a delay when you type the questions in, so it's just good to do it as soon as they come to you, and then hopefully they'll come through a little bit after that. If you can see, usually if you hover over the screen, a little menu will pop up, and the Q&A section where you can type in, it'll be a little chat box with a question mark over it. For those of you that don't know, Renee Tack is a doctoral level business professional with 23 plus years of experience achieving results in the media, research, consumer goods, and retail industries. She is accomplished in business and operational planning, market development, team management, budgeting, and all functional areas of marketing, including sales, advertising, consumer behavior, database marketing, and market research. And in case I didn't introduce myself, I'm Lindsay from LNP. So thanks so much again for listening in. We do always welcome feedback. So if you have any questions or topics that you would like more info on about your business, feel free to let us know. This is, like I said, session 2 of our 4-part series that is available for free to all local businesses. And we also always offer virtual whiteboarding and brainstorming sessions at no cost during quarantine until we're able to do things in person again, how we always do. So if you ever want more individualized areas and Q&As on your specific business, we're happy to do it. It's one of our favorite things to do. So feel free to reach out to your sales rep, or you can always email advertising@lnpnews.com. Again, thanks so much for listening. We hope you find this information helpful. And Renee, take it away.
Okay, now I think I was muted. Can everybody hear me now? Can you hear me okay? Okay, excellent. All right, so hi everybody. Thank you for coming and taking time out of your busy day. Today we're going to talk about creative selling without a storefront. Obviously, this COVID-19 timeframe has really put us in a different thinking space. So we have to think differently about what we do and how we do it with regards to our businesses. I put this quote up here because it is one of my favorite quotes, and I have to admit it is actually on my refrigerator to remind myself of pushing things differently each and every day. So I'm not going to read the whole thing to you, but this was actually Steve Jobs said this in 1997, and it was the basis for their Apple's advertising back in 97. So he talks about, here's to the crazy ones, the people who see things differently. You know, you can quote them or disagree with them, but the only thing you can't do is ignore them because they push the human race forward. While some people see crazy, we see genius, because the ones who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones that do. And it is something, like I said, that is physically on my refrigerator so that I remind myself of this every day, because status quo isn't where we want to be. We want to think creatively. We want to do things differently. And I felt like in this COVID-19 space that thinking outside the box becomes incredibly, incredibly important to how we're going to move and shift into the next 12 to 18 months. So I actually wanted to just give you a snippet of what is going on in terms of consumer activities. So I am part of a group, the ARF Research, and actually what they did is they measured what are people's timelines for their normal activities versus their comfort level in doing activities. So you can see here, and when you guys have this in your hands, you'll be able to really dig into it as well. But between the next 2 weeks all the way out to more than 6 months, and every color is what every color stands for. So the top line is when they expect to do this activity, and the bottom line is when they will feel comfortable doing this activity. So as you can see, mostly the black is where most people are going to be more comfortable. So you've got more than 6 months from now. The other parts between 3 to 6 months. So we're really looking at people that are changing their activities. They're, changing how they're traveling abroad, whether they're going to a concert or how comfortable they are going to a social event. So this is just designed to let us know that people are not doing the same things that they were doing previously. And the even scarier thing is the fact, if you look at the gray at the end, those are all people that have no opinion or don't know. And that's crazy. When you look at going to a gym or an exercise class, 50% of these respondents didn't know if they were comfortable or when they were going to go back to a gym. So that makes it very scary. Even as Pennsylvania starts opening up, we have to start thinking about the longevity for how we're going to have to do things different. Just because we get the go-ahead to open does not necessarily mean that consumers are going to quickly follow. So here's our challenge. And as we go through this today, I want us to think about the fact that people are still buying. But there's really two main purchase considerations that they have. One is needs, and those needs are really things that get them through each day. And the other is wants. What are the things that make them feel better or help them escape? So any of you that were here last week, we actually talked about different purchase considerations with regards to, in psychology, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. That's how a lot of advertisers will classify different consumer motives. So something that is a need or a higher level need is really more of a want. They're things that are not necessarily like food and water and shelter. Those lower level needs we have to have. The other things we like to have. And there's a tremendous difference in when you're talking the amount of people that are on unemployment, the amount of money that they may not have to spend. We have to think about what their value proposition is going to look like in terms of, if I spend money on this, how is it going to contribute to my life? So I felt like as we talk about creative selling without a storefront, we have to divide your marketing plans. And many of you that have been involved with some of LMP Media's present not webinars, but conferences and stuff in the past, we talk often about it is very, very important to plan. Anytime you do your marketing, you really should plan, and sometimes plan out a year in advance. So that's kind of what I want you to start thinking about, is dividing and conquering. Consider both your marketing and your sales strategies when you're selling without a storefront. A marketing strategy is really your long-term view of your marketing mix, and we'll talk about what that is. But essentially, your product, price, promotion, and place. What are we doing with those? Your sales strategy, on the flip side, is your short-term initiatives. So these are going to focus on how to communicate with customers and prospects to drive product sales right now. So I split these up for how we're going to address these. I would be remiss as a marketing professional if I didn't talk to you about, even though we have to turn things on a dime, we also should take the time now to also start thinking about how we're going to plan for the next 12 to 18 months. So we have to focus on what is the future of normal shopping. Unfortunately, it might be a while before we get back to normal shopping. The fear that has been created by the COVID virus is changing the way people feel about going to restaurants, going to locations. So one of the first things we have to think about with regards to our stores and our locations is, how do we make customers feel safe? And one of those things is especially important is to clean and organize the store. So we have to make space for social distancing to ensure comfortable shopping. Not only is that a requirement by the government, but also it's something that, again, the fear that has been built in many of your consumers, they want to know that they're going to be in a comfortable space. So it really does go, it's not that you're being forced to do it, but we also have to think about how consumers feel. You want to make hand washing or sanitizing readily available. I went in a store yesterday and they had sanitizing right in the front. I could, everybody who came in used the hand sanitizer. They had carts that were already sanitized before you touch them. So all of that makes it really important for consumers to feel like, hey, okay, I'm feeling better about going in the store. You want to eliminate community product displays to reduce contamination. That's anything where people would be putting their hands in places and pulling things out. You don't want to have that. So you've got to look at your store, and part of this planning for the next 12 to 18 months might also include redoing the way you've been displaying things. So new displays, new floor layouts, making sure that you've got guidelines for how you're managing the requirements for masks. Do you have masks available to give away? Do you have masks for them to buy? And if somebody comes to your location that does not have a mask, have a contingency plan for non-compliance, possibly another employee that might be able to be a personal shopper. I'm sure you've seen in the news, I live in York County, and there's been several of them at this point where people are just really frustrated in this whole situation, and it's turned into some ugly situations for people that are trying to manage compliance, and customers get upset, and some of them do not act accordingly. Also do inventory. So as we think again for this big picture, analyze past sales data. Look at your year-over-year sales volume by category, by product, and also the margins by categories and products, because ultimately the sales volume that you had last year is not going to be the same that you're going to have this year. So it's important that you know what's high volume, what's low volume, what's high margin, what's low margin. And we'll talk about that in the sales strategy shortly. But essentially, analyzing that data becomes important to how you are able to press forward. Also, incorporate alternatives to in-store shopping. I recognize that this is not something, again, that if you didn't have delivery, that you feel like I can't do this on a dime. But unfortunately, given today's environment, it's something that has to be turned around pretty quickly. But you can think about how you plan to maintain this and manage it over the next 12 to 18 months. Think about e-commerce via a website. Think about curbside pickup, utilizing alternative shipping or delivery options. Anything that is an alternative to in-store shopping that you can manage becomes incredibly important to offering those after we get out of the immediate time frame and when we do open up. Look at CRM strategies using customer lists for direct communication. So are you keeping customer lists? If so, how? Are you putting them in Excel? Are you able to download them and do direct mail or email? Are you collecting email addresses? All of these things need to be an important planning item for you to think about how to get through the next 12 to 18 months. And then, as we said, we'll look at your marketing mix, your 4 Ps. The 4 Ps in marketing, when anybody who takes my marketing classes, they really drive all of your organizational decisions. What is your current product mix? So you have to go through, again, looking at that year-over-year sales and looking at what your product mix is in your location right now. Identify necessary needs versus what consumers, not that I'm classifying them as this, but consumers may classify some things as ancillary want items. Because again, if they only have $100 to their name, they're going to identify what's the priority in terms, how do I spend that? As you're analyzing your product mix, track your margins. Look at what are your mid to high volume sales items. Look at those that are also your high margin items. Look to reduce existing inventory. Remember, inventory is cash sitting on your shelves. So in this time, we really want to get rid of inventory. And again, we'll talk about that in sales management or sales strategy, especially those low volume sales items. For price, you're really going to have to start thinking about for the next 12 to 18 months to plan for recessionary spending. People are not going to have a lot of discretionary income. So once again, we get back to the necessary versus ancillary wants. So retailers with lower affordable price positioning will be the ones that will prevail as we come out of this. Also making sure you're plugging into the right needs of what the consumers are looking for. Now, I'm not saying that people don't want things that are fun. We'll talk about that in sales strategy. I'm just saying we've got to be realistic in how we look at the product mix and determine the best way to price it out. What you need to do is really evaluate your position and leverage your strengths over the next 12 to 18 months, especially with regards to those things that are the highest sales volume for you. Next thing is your promotion. Communication plans are key. You have to tell the market that you're open, whether that's with modified hours or alternative shopping, online ship to home, curbside pickup appointments, anything that you're doing, you've got to communicate it. So reinforce the fact that you're local and you support the community. Advertise on high traffic local news sites. I recall last week, one of the LMP media sales managers was able to say that I believe your traffic has doubled from like 1 million to 2 million viewers, customers. I want to make sure I get
users. So we're seeing about in March, certainly it was over double our typical traffic. In April, it's hanging out around there too. Dipped a little bit as the news got, more repetitive and things like that, but still very, very strong. Much higher than average.
Excellent. So, when you're talking about advertising and communicating, find those high traffic sites. And if you were in our session last week, I talked about the fact that the growth of local news has been tremendous all over, and especially there in Lancaster where you guys are, because people want to know, they know COVID's here, but they want to know how does it impact me? How does it impact my local area? Another thing to consider with promotion, starting a blog or newsletter to connect with customers, using social media for lead generation to grow the customer base. All of those things can go into a comprehensive communication plan that becomes incredibly important. I mean, you guys are fortunate, tremendously fortunate in the fact that you also have a 7-day-a-week newspaper that is incredibly strong, family owned, and you have an opportunity to be in everybody's house every single day. There hasn't been a blip in terms of LMP Media getting onto into the household. So whether it's digital or whether it's in print, you guys have a fantastic market for making that happen. The other thing that you have to think about in terms of your long-term strategy is place. That's selling through other channels. Again, if you're not getting the customer volume because you have to have a 6-foot distance, some are limiting based on the square footage of the store, how many people can actually be in the store. If you're a restaurant, there's all kinds of discussion about having to eliminate and stretch out tables. So the sales volume that you saw last year is not going to be here. So in order to make up that sales volume, you've got to figure out other channels to make connections that can help you drive volume. So creating or redesigning a website so that it's user-friendly and built for conversion, meaning somebody can buy. Partnering with open businesses to increase distribution options. You can use third-party partners. I'm sure, and your LMP Media team can talk closer to this, but I'm sure you have other channels in Lancaster that would be fantastic ways for you to sell through other channels. Social media, as well as building a subscription service or an auto renew program. Helping people be able to just auto renew might be something that helps build loyalty. You don't have them thinking about having to order it every week. I mean, maybe this is your opportunity to build a subscription box or something along those lines. So those are the things that we talk about with regard to thinking in the next 12 to 18 months. The next part of this is all about cash. This is about short-term initiatives that drive revenue in the next 3 to 6 months. Ultimately, as soon as we start opening, possibly, hopefully, by the end of May into June, again, we've got to get cash. So think about now. Implement or remind about gift card programs. If you have gift card programs, that's fantastic. Again, go back to what I said about communicate. Remind people that you have gift cards. If they're physical gift cards, you may look into the opportunity to build digital gift cards. And there's a lot of resources, and maybe LMP Media has some resources that they can help you with that as well. But digital cards, as long as you have the point of sale system set up to manage, report, and track your gift cards, your system doesn't care if it's print or if it's digital. You just have to make sure that your accounting people can set that up correctly. But gift cards are an opportunity to drive revenue today for purchases that happen tomorrow. So, also, it's a great way to promote gifts for others that are in need. We have a lot of people right now that are in need, that are outside of jobs. And so you could put together a promotion campaign that talks about, hey, we have groceries. So if you want to give to somebody else, you can buy gift cards from us, and they can come in and they can redeem the gift cards. So really, it allows the receiver flexibility to spend the money as it's needed on the things that they do need. Another thing that becomes important about how do we get cash, using alternative sales methods to in-person shopping, as we had said in long term. But what we have to think about now is, can we do curbside pickup? If you are an essential business that is allowed to be open and have in-store, maybe right now you could also do shop by appointments. But if you can't, going forward, when it is still limited, maybe you can set up an appointment schedule to manage the customer experience with reduced traffic. And it also gives you an opportunity to be one-on-one with your customers, which can go far with regards to customer experience. Other things, you should look at your website. An e-commerce website is one that is set up for online shopping, meaning somebody can find product on there and they can check out and pay for it. Simple options, you've got a lot of options out there to build it yourself, but I also know from working with LMP Media before that they do have the ability to help you build a website and or help you set up for e-commerce. So definitely talk to your LMP Media reps, because they can help you with that as well. Home delivery right now, if you have the ability, if you have employees, if you've been able to take advantage of the government's plan, where most of that money has to go on to keeping people at work. So use some of your people to do home delivery. Or if you can't, for some reason, then there's third party, especially if you're a restaurant. There's a lot of opportunities with third party delivery. You could possibly partner with open businesses that align with the sales goals and objectives that you're looking to accomplish. Possibly negotiate for a kiosk. If you have locally made soaps and there's, a local grocery store that's open, then you could talk to them about possibly, could you sell your soaps in their store? And they may find that this is a fantastic alignment, that they sell a lot of your local soaps in that location. Also identify high sales volume or high volume items to feature on your website and or at those local businesses. Something else you might want to consider, again, as a quick, we got to get cash, can you create a pre-order strategy? Use it for popular products that are in inventory, or possibly those that are on back order. How can you get on that customer's shopping list and secure that sale today if you've got the supply chain that actually can help you put service that request. Reserve space for upcoming events if you're a theater, or if you have shows that are coming up. Maybe those that are later in the summer, start communicating about reserving space now. As people start to get out there, everybody's going to be wanting to get out and do things. So maybe that's an opportunity to get something that may not be available later. create loyalty program or subscription services. You right now need to create regular connections with customers. So loyalty programs or subscription services are a great way to do that because it increases the opportunity for repeat purchases. You could also put in place a customer referral program so that with that loyalty program, if you offer do a referral for other customers, then you might give them a sales promotion, a $10 credit on their account, or $25 to spend in the future, again depending upon what your business is and what you're looking to sell. Another thing that is incredibly important for now, you need cash and you need to not have all of your inventory. Don't let your cash be tied up in your unwanted inventory or things that you can't sell right now. So you've got to be creative to drive sales. Create new packages using multiple low volume products. So package them differently in new ways, things that people might not think about, or maybe today they're thinking about things differently than when they were shopping in the past. Bundle with other relative high selling products. So, if you're selling Dawn dish detergent and, bundle it with a sponge and possibly a sponge holder so that it's a whole new section, a whole new product or a bundle that they're getting. Price to sell, but don't give it away. This is not the time to react and devalue what you are offering. If you were on the session last week, we talked about you are the connection between the manufacturer or distributor and the consumer. So you are absolutely instrumental to building that connection. So you can utilize discounts or coupons. You can utilize things like time sensitivity, limited availability, but don't give it away. You need cash, so make it fair. Find ways to price things that give deeper discounts, but at the same time, don't completely take away all of the money you've put into it. If you have items that are taking up your inventory, and again, you've got cash tied up in it, maybe those items are more like a clearance item. Maybe you have the ability to offer deeper discounts than what you would offer for anything else because they're off trend, they're not in demand. You really have to find the balance between the demand for the product and the customer's internal price to really make sure that you're making money. But again, anything that is sitting in your store that is not in front of the customer is cash that is tied up and really not something that you want to have sitting out there. As I mentioned before, in the long-term strategy, in order to be able to turn around quickly, you've got to update your website, not only for reinforcing online shopping, but now is also the time to make sure that you have the best website that you can have. The user experience is incredibly important. You have to have functional user experience, which means that it works well, it's easy to navigate, it's simple, it's useful, there aren't broken links, it's the headlines and the call to action are all clear and compelling, but it also has to look engaging. If they're living more online in your store than they are in your store, then you've got to make sure that your website reflects that. The other thing that becomes incredibly important from a marketing perspective is choose pictures that reflect today's normal. Don't show a whole crowd of people going into your store. Show pictures that are social distancing, show pictures where people might have masks on, show pictures that show clean environments. The other thing that you have to think about with regard to your website is it should be a responsive design that adjusts to any sales environment. So if you have a website that is only designed for PC, when somebody goes on mobile, they're not going to be able to shop easily. If any of you out there have shopping apps that you use frequently, that's what I'm talking about. Make sure you can your consumer can shop, whether they are PC, mobile, or tablet. So your ultimate goal is to create new to you products and packages that engage consumers in new ways. Think about social gaming and entertainment. Can you do virtual bingo? Can you do a music party? Can you do a book club or a reading group if you're a bookstore? Are you a personal wellness location? So can you do something for personal wellness or pampering? You know, can you provide exercise videos on YouTube? What can you do to enhance personal space, like sell linens and linen sprays, and or what can you do for spa time, beauty items, masks, doing your nails, relaxation, anything like that. Also food and dining, meal packages. Can you do a recipe swap? I was watching something and I saw a restaurant somewhere in the country that had a famous chili. And so since nobody can go to the restaurant, the chef actually did a video where he showed the recipe and how to make his famous chili. So, you know, that was kind of a unique thing that you would think most restaurants don't want to give away their famous recipe, but that's a way to connect with today's consumers in a different way. Cooking lessons, you know, if you're a restaurant again, you know, I heard of another situation where a chef actually, a restaurant put together a bag from their stash of food and everything. So they put together a grocery bag, and then basically the chef showed everybody in a video how to cook everything that was in the grocery bag, and they would sell those grocery bags. My sister just sent me something from a bowling alley in Palmyra that actually they are putting together grocery bags for $75 that include everything from meats to deli items. So here the bowling alley is doing grocery shopping for people, and on a weekly basis for $75, they'll do the shopping for you. Enrichment. Teach new skills. You know, are you a craft store? Again, are you a restaurant? Can you drawing? I actually had a colleague who just contacted me this week. She has friends in Boston, and they were trying to get together a virtual paint night. So we were going into restaurants to do paint nights. Well, this organization did a virtual paint night, and they were going to mail you your canvas and everything. And everybody was going to do, you know, a Zoom or an online meeting to paint. You know, learning, reading, anything like that for enrichment. The last thing that I want to talk about with, you know, creative selling without a storefront, you are the connection for social involvement. You have the opportunity in this strange space that we're in right now to engage new audiences with all of those things that we talked about, but it also allows you to host bingo. For a retirement community, or for a fire hall, or the local police department, or a local hospital that you know, where all the first responders are there. You could sponsor a music concert that somebody does online. You could sponsor theater events. I mean, really, this is about showing that you're part of the community, and the more engaged you can be in the community, whether it's through giving back and donating or partnering or sponsoring, all of those things keep you top of mind and keep you at the forefront, despite the fact that people cannot walk through your doors. So basically, as Lindsay had said, that, you know, the LMP Media 4-week webinar session, next week we're going to talk about further, how do we expand your business reach? What are how much more depth can we put into that for the upcoming session? And then on the 18th, we're going to talk about reinforcing that community connection. So with that, that's all I had for you guys. So I'm going to let the LMP Media team take over, and we can go to questions.
Thank you, Renee. This is Ari from LMP. We do have a couple of questions that we had come in here. The first one is, how should I be advertising if I'm not supposed to be open?
Okay, so if you're not supposed to be open to the public, I guess that depends on the state mandates. For most of them, if you're not supposed to be open, you're not supposed to have people in your store. But once again, you can be advertising online. You can be advertising in LNP newspaper. You can be advertising on their website. And you could do any of the things that we've talked about with staying top of mind. So even if you're a lawn and garden center where you weren't supposed to be open to sell plants, well, now is the time to start planning for that. So do the guidelines restrict you from delivering somebody's plants to the house? You know, same thing with food. If you are, I mean, some restaurants are open for delivery. If it's a retail store, again, do you have the ability to sell online? And just tell everybody, communicate that you may not be open, but you can still deliver via your website.
Yeah, and I would add to that too, we've seen some creative things from our advertisers recently, one that comes to mind of someone who's, not, allowed to be open, saying things like, we'll be here for you when this is over. We've also seen advertisers, helping people who are open who maybe don't have the funds to advertise and doing kind of like a co-branded promotion for them. So there's all sorts of ways to get your name out without saying, come to my store now. And if you really can't advertise, there's other things you can say. And I think the companies that keep their awareness up during this time are going to bounce back from this much, much faster than those who go silent.
Yes, and that's why I say that, you may not be able to have your store open, and so maybe you are hosting a bingo for somebody. Again, that's top of mind. And like Erin said, we talked about partner with other businesses that are open so that you can have your products for sale through a local grocery store or something like that.
Okay, next question. How do you determine if it's worth the added expense and investment to add an e-commerce feature to your website? We currently do not have e-commerce capabilities, but have been utilizing social media posts to showcase our retail inventory and are offering individual pickup options if they want to purchase anything we post. Would you recommend to just take the leap of e-commerce or continue as we are?
I'm going to be completely honest. Take the leap. In today's day and age, we're not going backwards, we're going forwards. The fact that there's not an e-commerce option on your website now puts you at risk. Right now, social media there's a lot of people active on there. However, traditionally, social media was not really a sales channel. It is also one of the least controllable media channels out there. Somebody has a bad experience, they're going to slather your brand all over. So control your message and control your sales through your website. So that would be my plan, in that take the leap, do it now, you'll have it. Then you can start to think about mobile and some other things. We're not going backwards.
I would also add, Renee, we learned this from you, is just the fact that you don't own the social media pages. So yes. What if something happens and it's down tomorrow? Where would your revenue be coming in? So it's just thinking about those things. And I'm sure it seems overwhelming to manage the inventory and then someone servicing that, taking the orders and then making sure they're shipping. But you can control the inventory you put on there. So you can start small and add as you get more of a system going.
Absolutely. And that's a great point, Lindsay, because remember, go back and look at what are your high volume things. So what are the things that people want now? What are your high margin things? Start your store small and focus on those things and slowly grow that. But, Lindsay's right. A lot of the times when I've presented at other conferences, we talk about the fact that you don't own your Facebook. Facebook owns your site. So own your website, it is yours, and you manage it through there.
And we certainly have website partners that we work with that can help make that conversion for you relatively easily. It doesn't have to be a tens of thousands of dollar project. It shouldn't be that expensive. So let us know if we can help you with that. And Google has actually done some new things where they're publishing e-commerce products to their Google Shopping platform at no cost. It's something we can also help you get set up with, but basically they're trying to compete with Amazon in the sense that they don't want to charge you to include your items on their shopping platform. So there's a lot of new things that are being done now to help local e-commerce folks like you. So I would say certainly take the plunge.
Yeah, love it, love it.
Last question that we have now. Oh, it looks like we have a couple in the queue, but next one is, what would you recommend in terms of cart size? Are people less likely to venture out if it's for something small or trivial versus something more substantial? So I think they're asking, even if we just have a small product or something that might not be as essential as toilet paper or paper towels, is it still worth promoting it so that people would come pick it up or buy it online, that kind of a thing?
Okay, yeah, so I jotted what, Erin, what would you recommend in terms of cart size?
Yeah, so I think they're using cart size as a term for like size of or value of product, or what how much the product would cost, that kind of a thing.
Oh, okay, all right. And for a physical store or for online? Can you decipher from there?
It doesn't say particularly, no.
Okay, all right. So, um, what do you recommend in terms of cart size? You mean in terms of, see, that's kind of hard. I feel like I've got like half the thing. So if it's for e-commerce and you're trying to determine the ROI of adding an e-commerce portion of it, you know, every business is different in terms of cart size, because you're really looking at, you know, I've worked with grocery stores where their cart size is $35 on average. I've worked with other grocery stores where their cart size is $100 on average. So when you look at the value of the product in terms of what you're putting out there, think about go back to that slide that we talked about with regards to, is it a need or is it a want? People are willing to spend money on something, especially after being, you know, in our homes for 6 to 7 weeks. They may be willing to spend a little bit more money on something if it's going to make them feel better. The challenge is we don't know who's out of work, who's in work. So that was a little bit of a hard question to answer, because I'm not sure relative to what do we mean by cart size. But
Yeah.
I think the important thing is prioritizing your inventory with regard to things that people want right now. Don't spend your money, don't spend your effort advertising things that, you know, have been sitting on your shelf for 2 years. That's why I was saying those need to be handled as like clearance, deeper discounts, find other ways to sell them. Be at the forefront of the things. You know, if you sell toilet paper and nobody can find toilet paper, then be everywhere, you know, but then manage how much somebody's able to buy of it.
One thing that comes to mind to me with this question is we have a local company who does pottery, and you can paint your own pottery and then they'll pick it up. Well, they'll drop it off with paint. You can paint your pottery and then they'll pick it up and they will put it in the kiln for you and then bring it back. And to me, that is a pretty small, you know, a low in value product. I mean, some of the things are only 10, you know, 15, $20, but they are making sales and people are continuing to do it. So even something as, you know, fun and sort of, it's more of like a whim that I would think of than an essential product, but they're still having success. I think people are really hungry for anything at this time, and no product is too small. And no. I would say, you know, take the plunge again, because you'll only miss out if you don't try it.
Yeah, and you know, that's a great example, Erin, because think about it. Like I said, people are drawing. One of my students in one of my classes recently was talking about how he decided to teach himself guitar while he's been stuck at home, you know, so people are looking for that enrichment. So if you go back to, again, where I started talking about, is it about entertainment and social gaming, or is it about enrichment and learning how to do something new? Same thing, you know, people, if you've got a famous chili and, you know, you tell everybody how to buy it, and if you're a grocery store that has all the things, put together some bags. And even if you only have 20 bags that you can sell that have all the ingredients for your famous chili, including the recipe, and your chef, you've created a video of your chef making it, that's a huge time sensitive, limited time only thing, you know, for Cinco de Mayo or something that's coming up.
And I think also just wanted to jump in and add too, I'm thinking about things, we keep talking about things to do, and parents need things for the kids to do. And even the same, as much as it sounds like it's not necessary, my daughter's almost 2 and she's growing out of her pajamas that she was wearing at the beginning of the quarantine, you know, and I can't get out to get them. You got to find places online to buy them. So it's as things that probably don't seem necessary, they are in some ways, you know, it's desperate times. So it's just good to be top of mind.
Yes, and that's a great point.
Okay, last question. So this person says, I own and operate We Usables, a semi-annual pop-up consignment event, and we have rescheduled our York event 2 times and are now planning a mid-June event. We had already planned to do virtual selling, personal shopping, but any other things to consider to ensure safety for families. They're saying they're an event that's all about volume of shoppers and sales and are just trying to think out of the box for how to do a consignment event virtually or just still make it successful even if they do it in person down the road.
Yeah, so I wrote down We Usables, and you said it is a consignment event, so they...
Yeah, so it's a virtual, it's kind of like a pop-up thing where you bring your used clothing and then people come and shop for used clothing and that kind of a thing.
Well, I think this is where we go back to concerns that people are going to have with regard to cleanliness, with regard to comfort, fear, all of those things. So you said, Erin, that it was rescheduled to mid-June, and then what was the rest of the question?
And so they're trying to do some virtual selling and personal shopping, I'm guessing without the actual event, but I think the goal is still to open back up and do a large event mid-June where they're going to basically be bringing a lot of people into a building if they're able to.
And I think they're probably just asking for any, I think her name's Lori, I think she's just asking for some creative ways if they do want to try to take the bulk of it virtually, just assuming people maybe won't be comfortable gathering. So like she said, curbside pickup. I think that would be very cool if there was a way to see the things as they're coming in.
Yeah.
So whether that be on a website or a video, however you would do it, and then people can just jump on things as they see them, and then would just arrange some kind of a time to pick up curbside.
Yeah. One of the things that I was thinking is, you could do virtual tours through your stores. You could be able to talk about and maybe set up a YouTube channel, or again, LMP Media can probably give you some ideas or some things that they have. If you were able to do a weekly update of some of the products that were coming in for the consignment, and if you ended up having to do it all virtually, I mean, one of the most important things to remember is all of us are consumers. So how do we buy virtually? What are the things that connect with us? What's going to resonate? So seeing the things, being able to see somebody testing it and using it. So if it's something that's a little bit more expensive, then you may actually want to do a little short video where somebody is showing how the product actually does work. And so that they know what they're actually buying. Other things that are smaller, if it's like Lindsay had mentioned, onesies. So if you have a whole bunch of onesies, again, I would make sure that all of your consigners are adhering to the fact that everything is cleaned. Anything that you can do to reinforce that, that you're taking extra precaution to that. And then if you're showing a bunch of clothing, have it on racks that you can video to show, here's the wide range of things from onesies to, age 10, or, so you could use the video to just sort of keep up with, either show things that are complex or show things that are in high demand, and, get sort of everybody excited about the event in mid-June. Sorry.
I was just going to say, another thought I had is that, I believe it's a ticketed event where people spend money on the tickets. So if it is, you could use to your advantage the fact that you may only be allowed to let a certain number of people in at a time, and maybe there's some sort of like VIP or some way that you can moderate that by the cost of the ticket. If it's not paid tickets, then that could get a little tricky, but if you are having people pay to come, that would be a way you could sort of use that to your advantage and help keep the number of people down while increasing your revenue a little bit.
Yeah, and that's funny, Erin, because that actually reminds me, there's if you've heard of Emil Henry Cookware, I love to cook, and they would have an open house down in Delaware, and so I would always spend $100 on the VIP ticket, but they also donated to Meals on Wheels in Delaware. So I didn't mind spending $100 on it, and they would specialize some things for the event. So I'm not saying you have to spend $100, but if you do decide to do something that is VIP, and even if it is not a paid event, you could possibly make a tier, a VIP tier that is a tiered event that you could donate some of the proceeds to maybe like the Lancaster Food Bank, or, you know, something else, or maybe it's for each onesie purchased, then one onesie or something could go to one of the local shelters or something like that, so that you could create that VIP tier. And then you could also start selling ticket or giving tickets, having people sign up in, you know, round 2, round 3, round 4, and set up times. And, you know, you could really create it sort of like an auction. When you think about how people bid on things, and when something is limited, people just, they want to get in. And I went to one of these consignment events with one of my friends a few years ago before she had her son, and we waited in lines outside. We got up at 6 o'clock in the morning to wait outside of the church and to go in. So, I mean, I think that there's a huge following for these consignment shows. So I think anything that you do will really just kind of up the anticipation, get everybody excited about being out, you know, reinforce all of that cleanliness, but have fun with it. Definitely have fun with it.
Yeah, and I think now more than ever, people are going to be, there's going to be even more of a demand for that. So
absolutely.
I think Lori just added here that you buy a ticket for the first night and then it's free the other nights. So
gotcha. Okay, so yeah, definitely something to look at, but you might have to consider how you're going to manage the volume. How many sales can you really do the first night? And really, does it make sense now to say, okay, you bought your ticket your first night, you get to come free the other nights? I mean, you might have to change your model if there's going to be limitation of people, because imagine somebody buys a ticket, but yet they can't get in on the second night because somebody else is in there free. So I don't understand fully how it's being done, but that would be something I would think about.
Perfect. Well, it doesn't look like there's any other questions, so I think we'll go ahead and
wait. Hold on, there is one more here. I think we just got lost. We have an entertainment industry question. This is someone saying, I understand that it is important to promote our brand and share free concerts or free videos, but we still have to try to make a profit at some point too, if possible. Any ideas for us to consider or think about?
Well, my first question, and I did this over this COVID time, you know, do you ever record any of your shows from the past? So, I mean, people are using, so for example, I love Phantom of the Opera, and Andrew Lloyd Webber had actually released his, I forget what year it was, the 25th anniversary of Phantom of the Opera. So for 48 hours, they took one of the films and they put it on. Now he did it for no charge, but they asked for donations for the Actors Fund. So same thing again, can you pre-sale tickets for later shows? Are there existing shows that you've done that you could video, and maybe maybe you sell it for the same price, or maybe it's a half price ticket, but somebody can sign up for $15 to go watch the show virtually as opposed to in person. So, I mean, there's absolutely value there. If it's past shows that you've done, you know, that's where it would be nice to have sort of like your own private YouTube channel that people could subscribe to, that when you wanted to turn it on and it's like, you know, for $20, you can watch unlimited all of our shows from last year versus paying for this year. And without knowing exactly what your entertainment venue is, that's kind of my initial thoughts. But was there anything else specific that was in that question, Lindsay?
No, nothing else. I think unless there's I don't see anything waiting in the queue, but if there's additional things that we missed, I don't see a name here. It's just anonymous. Feel free to type it in and we can address it. I think there's a few talented, there's a lot actually, talented local singers and bands in the area. And I think what's hard for them is whereas now things would get busy performing at some of the different hot spots, they're not, they're not getting booked, or the gigs that they had are getting canceled or postponed till who knows when. So I think they're just trying to find a way to keep doing what they do while people need the entertainment too, while staying home. So I'm almost thinking like if you could get a bunch together and do some kind of like a live stream. I'm even just thinking about for us on Lancaster Online, like a live stream, but all of it is to raise money for these local artists to be able to keep doing what they want to do or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, I think of like Disney did the Disney sing-along virtually. Elton John had the sing-along with all of those other artists. So people are doing a lot of that. So if Lancaster has a lot of bands and singers, and it's a shame because I would like to hope that the bars could still coordinate with those singers to put together, their brand with the singers to be able to still present a Friday night virtual happy hour where people could be at home and, people could log in with each other. They could have a beverage at home, but yet they could still be listening to the concert. As, granted, it's not like you would be in the restaurant, but still it's about creating that atmosphere virtually to just give people an opportunity to get together. So, maybe 4 girlfriends would say, hey, this bar is featuring this, let's log in and, let's listen to the band, let's listen to the music. So that's why I say that this is the time to really brainstorm and think creatively. And my view of the world is don't say I can't, say I can, and figure out what exactly you can do. And, like the LNP Media team said, they know how to find me. They're incredibly brilliant at what they do. I mean, if you really have to brainstorm and you need help, there's lots of people that can help you because we all want to see you guys succeed and we want to try to find the best way for you. And I know an environment like this is a little bit hard because we don't have the specifics and nobody wants to really share the specifics, but they certainly do great whiteboarding sessions. And if the bars are closing up and you're a musician and you need to get your name out there, then create your own channel, try to figure out, get with some of your other fellow musicians, create a Lancaster event that you can absolutely do something like that with. I mean, heck, LNP Media, maybe you guys should host an event yourselves. You guys host it and have musicians come in and live stream it. Never know.
Yeah, thank you so much. It looks like we're done with questions here, so I'll go ahead and wrap it up. Thank you so much, Renee. Next week, we are back same time, May 11th at 3 o'clock. Renee is going to be speaking on expanding your business reach. You should receive a link at the end of this webinar for next webinar where you can register. So please come back. We'd love to see you again. In the meantime, if you would like to discuss your marketing strategy further, we do, of course, offer these whiteboarding sessions. It's about 30 to 60 minutes or however much time we need. They're completely free. And our goal is really just to come up with some paid advertising options as well as some unpaid. I mean, we're going to help, brainstorm free organic things you can do that will just help get your name out there and really just promote yourself during this time. So please reach out to either advertising@lnpnews.com or your sales rep if you know who they are. We would love to get you on the calendar and help you brainstorm some fun ideas during this time. So thank you all so much, and I hope you have a good rest of your day.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.